All right, welcome to episode number 199 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We are recording March the 19th, 2023. My name's Eric, host of the show based in Southern Ontario, hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, as we're going to see this evening, and a computer geek. As a first responder, witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events and started a small preparedness company to help people better prepare for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
I'm Scott, a first responder from Ontario and radio nerd wannabe. I like learning things and I worry about our fragile infrastructure.
And I'm Jeff. I'm based in Central Ontario. I'm a target shooter, ham radio operator, general overall handyman, and weather nerd.
There we go. And I'm Brad. I'm in Eastern Ontario, part-time amateur prepper, constantly trying to better myself.
My name's Spear. I'm a tactical beard owner, based merchant maker now because we've dipped our hand in many honeypots that are getting a lot of fun. Government critique, and the reason we have to hit the explicit button.
Sounds about right.
And if you want to help to support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, buy some swag. We have both the Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and the Tactical Velcro patch. They can be found at prepperpodcast.ca. All proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
And if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, good, bad, or just a topic you want us to cover. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, we do have a Frugal Gunny with us this evening as well. He's decided to return for a second episode. If you want to take a quick second to say hello, or
thanks so much. It's nice to be back. Decided to come back into the fray again. I just started my learning curve in the ham side of things, so I'm quite happy to listen in and learn a whole lot. So expect me to ask lots of questions.
What's your recommendation on mustards for the ham sandwich?
Oh, we're off to a fantastic start. So we've got some transmittable content for you in this episode, and recommendations on mustard for ham sandwiches will come along with the content this evening, I'm sure. First, we're going to start out with some recent news articles as usual. Then we'll update you on our personal preps. Then we're going to get into the main topic, and it's either going to go really well or it's going to go crashing down in a ball of fire. We're going to see how this is going to work out. We spent about 3 hours or so last night getting this tuned and figured out. So if all goes well, we're going to make some contacts tonight. If not, I hope everybody brought a drink and we'll just turn this into a party.
I'm down for either one.
Perfect. Well, let's move into the news, shall we?
The world is still turning.
The world is still turning.
For now.
Yes.
So I've got a couple of news articles. I'll touch the first one first, and then I'll make a comment before I jump into the second one. So 400,000 gallons of contaminated radioactive water leaked at a nuclear power generation site in Minnesota, in Monticello, Minnesota. It happened in November, and is just hitting the media now. I'm not impressed by that at all. I mean, when something like that happens, and and this is where I say, don't trust the government. The company reported it to the federal authorities, and they said that the federal authorities said they were, quote, waiting to get more information before going public with it. They said they knew there was presence of tritium in monitoring wells. However, XL had not identified the source of the leak and its location. Then they went on to say, now that we have all the information about where the leak occurred, how much was released into groundwater, and this is a good one, that contaminated groundwater had moved beyond the original location, we decided to share the information. Bullshit. So
great. More trust in the
and
government.
The explicit button goes to Jeff tonight.
Yep. So
high five, Jeff.
Yay! Woo!
I will hold my comments. This is not Monday nights.
No. But you could have that one for Monday night. The next one, Pierre, you'll hold for Monday night for sure. So all I'm
Yeah.
going to say on this second one is I'm just bringing it forward for information. We're not going to debate it. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to go down any kind of rabbit holes or roads. I'm just going to put it out there.
And 200 tonight.
And we're going to move on. Yep. So the word out there, according to Donald Trump, is that he's going to get arrested on Tuesday. And he is calling on all his supporters to protest. So the only reason I'm putting it out there is just keep your ears to the ground on Tuesday. If something happens, if some protest happens, make sure that you're prepared to be able to get out of where you are or whatever. We're not going to debate anything on Trump or anything. Just be aware that there's the potential for some civil unrest should things unfold as Trump thinks they're going to. And I'm leaving it at that.
Nope, good, solid advice.
Think so.
Right. So the article that I pulled was from a suburb of Arizona has lost its only source of water. The residents warned they're just the beginning. It's a fairly affluent suburb, but all of their water was being trucked in from Scottsdale, Arizona, to this little suburb with a lot of sort of large custom construction homes, some ranches, that kind of thing. But because Scottsdale is so short on water, they've stopped letting the trucking company come and collect water. It's super interesting because it's just looking at some of the climate change issues and these beautiful homes that are dependent on water being trucked in from now twice as far, so the water costs twice as much because the trucker could only make half as many trips a day. So following up on it, I actually reached out to one of our contacts from Arizona just to see what boots on the ground are actually experiencing. Haven't heard back yet, but just as a sort of future warning, we know water is going to be an issue, and in the southern states, it's already there. I'll defer to Jeff to see how the snowfall in California has improved things, but it could be that we're going to be in a world of hurt at some point.
Tracy has a good comment there. I was going to ask something along the lines of, I hope they're not filling up their swimming pools with it, because that would just be a great use of water.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, a lot of places down southern states have gone away from green lawns. It's all desert plants in the front, that sort of thing. I think there are still some swimming pools, but when you look at like Las Vegas, all those hotels have huge gray water recycling systems and put a tremendous effort into water conservation and multiple pass uses, just because they know it's already a huge problem for Vegas. But it's these suburbs where a truck came and filled your cistern, and there's nowhere to get water anymore to fill your cistern. And wells are running dry, and it's just a little troubling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Water's
I've got one. Oh yes. Yeah, but I mean, just wait. Government will be there to help soon. I've got one about chicken laws in Ontario. So everybody's had that whole craze about
always heated debates.
So yeah, but so this article is kind of funny because the person that they're specifically talking in this one, this guy moved from Pembroke, which is not so rural, but kind of rural, but moved up to the Madoc Township, which is north of Belleville. Gorgeous country, very agriculture, hunter oriented, lots of big properties, nothing big up there. And it's just the debate of this guy, why this person doesn't understand why he can't have chickens in Madoc, but he could have them up there. Or there are strict guidelines. I think it was the zoning requirements was 6 hectares to have chickens, which is like a crazy amount of property considering how small they are or whatever. So it's just, with everything going on, if you plan on moving, apparently looking into potential bylaws on garden size. If you're allowed to have livestock, if you want to be more self-sufficient. Looking into all that before maybe jumping on that property in that nice place that you can't do 90% of what you want to do with. Yeah, it's just it kind of shocked me because I've been up to Madoc and I'm like there's just nothing around. Like, why can't I have chickens? But you can in Pembroke. So it was just a funny article. I kind of found it funny. So if you plan on moving, maybe looking into those specific bylaws on what you want to do with your property.
You mean planning ahead? Weird.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb. There are some places, and I mean, I could almost get it like in the middle of a city or a town or whatever. But if you're 5 minutes out of town and you've got a small little chunk of property, who freaking cares? Like, really, like,
The Karen 5 kilometers down the road from you.
She cares. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Does it differentiate? Does it differentiate between having chickens and having roosters? Because there's a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah, no. So this one is specifically, the first thing says patchworks of bylaws means hens may not be permitted in one township, or may be permitted, sorry, and outlawed in the next. So it's not even roosters, it's hens, where you get your eggs. But yes, I do know that there's that with roosters as well, right? Because they can be a little more annoying at first sunlight.
Just
compared to
slightly.
Yeah, but this article specifically is about hens, so that's what specifically caught me off guard.
Yeah. Says here, the article says here, only after moving did he must own a lot measuring at least 6 hectares in order to keep chickens, which is roughly the size of 7.5 Canadian football fields. Anything short of that, you're not allowed to own a single laying hen. That's nuts.
Yeah, I could understand if you wanted cattle, things that absorb a lot of natural grass and everything to maintain that eating. But I mean, like chickens, that's what I mean. Like, it's a very weird article, and the takeaway from it is, hey, that looks like a really good deal on property. What's the bylaws for chickens? Maybe even gardens. You never know. You might not be able to have too big of a garden, whether you agree with it or not. They're saying
for sale sign in the front freaking yard.
Well, I recall, I can't remember where it was, but it was a news article, I think, that we had quite a while ago, that there was some area that you had to register your garden.
Yeah, they're starting that in the US.
Yeah, if you wanted a garden, you had to register and tell them that you had a garden. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So
no thanks.
Yeah, and I think it was also a requirement that you tell them what you're growing in your garden. It wasn't just that you had a garden, but like what you planned on growing in your garden and everything. Yeah, I remember seeing that article, and I was just like, yeah, that's not ever happening.
No.
I reiterate my previous statement: for sale sign in the front fucking yard. Sorry.
Explicit button times 2.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. But seriously, like, I know in Canada we don't own our property. We just basically rent it forever from the government. But it's
as
still
long as you keep paying your taxes, yes.
Yes. Okay, whatever. But
It's the
like,
rental.
I paid for it. Screw off. I want to do what I want with it. I don't need 6.5 hectares of land to have one hen.
We're getting into Monday night.
Yes.
We are, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Before everybody gets completely angry and pissed off, how about we move into what we've done lately for preps?
Okay.
Okay.
So I took the opportunity of prepping for this podcast to play with some radios. I don't have a permanent setup at my place. I just kind of set things up as needed. But it's always fun to get it all set up and try and make some contacts and test my equipment. So I quite enjoyed that.
Is tonight about radios?
And then I have a lovely. Apparently, Eric, isn't every night about radios?
It is. Yeah, it's true.
And I was playing with a Faraday box tester from Disaster Preparer. There is some assembly required, so I got it all assembled and was playing around with it. And I mean, it's I believe Dr. Bradley in that it's a reasonably accurate representation of the sort of the how much signal is being blocked. But it's also just kind of a whole lot of fun. So just trying to measure the invisible. So that was nice, and it does fit inside a 50 cal ammo can. So that's kind of a neat thing that I'm going to suggest they mention on the website.
Yeah, because when I did the measurements, as far as I could figure, it wasn't going to fit. So then again, me and math don't get along too well either. So that's a thing.
All right then. I've got some problems with my well, so I've been working on that for a week or so. Haven't done a whole lot of other stuff, but most likely have it finished by next weekend. Fingers crossed. Hoping for Jeff that he proves that the weather's going to be nice for me.
I already threatened you, Brad. Be careful.
I know.
I did not do a lot this week. I did a bunch of food prep. I did a whole bunch of messing around with my Instant Pot this time and not the canner, trying different recipes, different cooking, making different things. I made a breakfast cinnamon coffee cake and chicken broccoli casserole and a couple other things just to kind of get my stock built back up that's kind of been worn down over the winter. So yeah, it's kind of a lot of fun actually.
Very nice.
And if you haven't bought an Instant Pot, they are a absolute godsend for ease of cooking. Trust me.
Yes,
Are you taking orders?
I was going to say, I know none of that food made its way up the road here, Jeff. I'm a little disappointed. Oh, well.
We'll work on it.
All right. Sounds like a plan. For myself, just been getting that 30 cal ammo case going. So it's the one we advertised a few episodes ago where it's got 4 of the ammo cans all in a nice little carry case. So got that kind of organized, figuring out what I want to do with it. So I've split it up into first aid, food, water, tools, and I know this is going to be shocking for everybody, but communications. So broke it up I know, weird, right? So broke it up that way and starting to put it together. Going to deploy the exact same setup in the two family vehicles here, and then branch out and do one in the work vehicle as well. So that's what I've done the last week, is just get my head wrapped around what I want to do with it. Now I get to fill it up with fun stuff. So
Nice. Those things are awesome.
Pending
Especially when they
approval
go
of
on sale.
the financial department, right?
this is true. Yes.
Got a little bit of food prep, some more toying around with the new machine that we will be advertising real soon about what we're doing. Lots of screw ups and one heck of a learning curve. But it's finally worked out. So yeah, just been cracking away at little sample kits. Eventually have a contract in the works for something to expand the business a little bit. So trying to fine tune all the details for that and do all that. A little bit of food prep and lots of laundry, organizing, getting everything ready, because by the end of this week, me and Mel are going to be gone for a week. So just get some stuff organized for mother-in-law and the daughter, trying to help out with them, a little bit of food prep for them as well as us. So we're not stuck cooking the whole time we're gone and all that stuff. So yeah, just lots and lots to do with not enough hours in a day.
That's a fantastic shirt you have, by the way.
I want one.
Yeah,
It's a great shirt.
it's a new one.
For those listening on audio, it says, "Do I have a podcast for you?" And then there's the Canadian Prepper Podcast logo on a set of headphones with a mic.
Yes, and if you would have been in on the pre-show, I put it on fresh off the press. It got me all excited.
Yeah. That's the OnlyFans portion of the show. You got to pay for access.
To support the show.
Frugal Gunny, you got anything you want to throw in for preps?
Absolutely. As always, I never miss an opportunity to stock up on more 22 ammunition. For any of you out there who are into the firearms preps, there's nothing quite like 22 as far as the prepper side of things. You can carry lots. You've got all kinds of variety. It's inexpensive. Everybody loves shooting 22. Enough said. I also picked up a spare PWM controller, charge controller for my spare battery pack because I'm starting to have some ideas as to what I'm going to do with it. And so any of you who know of good models of lunch pails, large lunch pails or waterproof boxes, I plan on waterproofing my 4 remaining lithium iron phosphate cells so I can make a portable battery pack with it that can serve dual purpose. So it can run my radio when I'm running around, as well as my little fishing boat rig. I use an actual one of those trolling motors, a little 30-pound thrust trolling motor on the back of my 15-foot canoe, and that allows me to go and fish the backwoods. And so having the lithium batteries is going to make them nice and light. So I'm looking to build that into a waterproof setup. It's nice and portable to do all kinds of neat things like that off the grid. So that's what I'm working on these days.
Very nice. Sounds like some fun projects.
Lots of fun.
Hashtag jelly.
DM Davey in the live chat's got a couple of things for you. Mentions get an old school metal lunchbox from a used place.
That's a good tip.
Or he says, or tackle boxes.
That's the ticket. Probably can find a tackle box for not much that I don't mind sacrificing and modifying. So that's a good idea. Thanks for the tip.
Awesome. Well, there we go. Okay. Well, with that, let's move into the main topic. So we tested everything last night. We set it all up. We spent about 3 hours kind of playing around with this, and hopefully it's going to work tonight. So, transition worked. Look at that. Okay. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to fire up some HF contacts. And before we do that, I'm going to give a quick rundown. For those that don't know what HF is, it's high frequency ham radio. So you do need to be licensed for this. Yes, there's the argument of, oh my God, I'll be on a list if I'm licensed. You're already on a list, so why not get on this one too? But this does require licensing. So I have put down in the bottom corner here, underneath my name, my call sign. So if you are licensed, or if you have shortwave ability to listen on the ham frequencies, or some way to listen to them, you're welcome to listen. If you're not licensed but you've got a receiver, then you can listen all you want. And you've got my call sign there. We're going to be making some calls. We're going to try and make contact with Scott. He's about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of me. Anybody else in the live chat that wants to hop in, by all means, you're welcome to. You can see in the background of my my screen here, you'll see the frequency that I'm on, and it should change. Yeah, it does as I change the radio here. We completely forgot to introduce Scott's radio. Didn't get an intro, didn't get to talk about what it's done lately for preps, but it is here in the chat as well. So you can see it. So it's a little Yaesu FT991A, and Scott's going to be following along here and putting the frequency in that screen as well. So if you can't see my screen, you can see his. So HF is worldwide communication. So it's high frequency. It's for this setup here at my place, I've got a Kenwood TS590. I'm running 100 watts. So that's the maximum that this rig will put out without amplification. And it's running out to an off-center fed dipole antenna out in the backyard. It's about 30 feet up. It's about a 270-foot long antenna. So it'll do quite a number of bands with a little bit of tuning. But we're good to go pretty much anywhere we want tonight. A couple of things with HF. So we're going to be starting out on 40-meter band. So you'll see it on my screen and on Scott's there. It says 7.045. We're going to be bouncing around, see what we can find. I'll put my call out. Anybody that wants to come back and say hello, by all means, come on back and say hello. I'm going to try and walk everybody through some standard areas on the band so you can hear what things sound like. That's kind of the goal of doing this episode. I always found that a lot of people, especially in the preparedness world, will talk about ham radio. You got to get your license. You got to get on the air. You got to talk to people. You got to learn how to use it. But nobody ever actually takes the time to let you know what it sounds like. So there's this mysterious side of it of, yeah, okay, great. I want to get in the ham radio. I want to be able to talk to people. But you never really get to hear what it sounds like. Yeah, there's YouTube videos out there that show you how to call and how to talk to people and proper protocol for that. But I never really experienced at least in the preparedness side of the world on podcasts and YouTube and such, anybody really just showing you what it sounds like. So I thought, you know what, why not for this episode, give it a shot. So I'm going to walk you through. We're going to hear things such as Morse code, and I'll identify it as we go as well. I'll take us over to FT8. That's a digital mode. I'll give you a warning before we do that because the sound is obnoxious. We'll move around a couple of other bands as well, or a couple other areas on 40 meters, see what we can hear. If we can make some contact with some people, we'll make that contact. And then take questions, obviously, throughout from the panel and from people that are in the live chat. And like I said, throughout it, if you're following along and you see the frequencies that we're on, if you want to jump in and say hello, by all means, let's try to make it happen. Those of you that are close by to the Barrie Aurelia area may or may not get me. And as we get out further and further and further, you may actually get in. So it all kind of depends there. So HF frequency, to give you an idea of what's happening, the frequency is coming off my antenna here. It's bouncing up to the sky, to the ionosphere, and then it's coming back down on an angle. So it's going up on an angle and it's coming back down on an angle. So depending on where it comes down in the world is where people are going to hear it. That's why closer area may not necessarily hear me, because my signal might go up and just completely bounce over your head and come down somewhere else. The same time, you might hear me, all depending on how things go. It's the famous explanation in the tech world. It all depends. So we'll see what happens. You're going to hear me say a couple of things. So as we go out into the world of HF and I'm looking to make a contact with people, you're going to hear me say CQ. So Charlie, Quebec. And that is simply me looking for a contact. So it stands for seek you. I'm looking for someone to talk to me. So if we hear somebody saying that as we're out going through the bands as well, that means they're looking for someone to talk to. So we can hop in and say our call sign. My call sign is Victor Echo 3 Echo Papa November. So I'm using phonetics for that. So it's VE3EPN. And I can come out, I can say that. And then if I hear them come back, then we can have a quick conversation. I'll try to keep it short with the conversations with folks tonight. A lot of hams like to talk a lot. So we'll try to cut them short if we can, but I'm going to be polite about it as well as we're talking to them. But we'll try to get in and out so we can move around and do some other things. But that's one thing. You could start on a frequency calling a CQ, and you can get 4 or 5 contacts pretty quick where people are just cycling through. And then all of a sudden you'll get that one operator that wants to chat or rag chew, and they will talk forever. We found that out last night with Scott while we were testing. He found it and Scott was gone for about a half hour, which is totally fine. It's it is what it is, and it's fun.
We got some new listeners out of it.
Exactly. So it works out, and that's a really good point. You'd be very surprised at the number of preparedness-minded people that are on the frequencies. Just drop the fact that you're into preparedness or something like that in the conversation, and you will get a whole lot of people that are like, oh yeah, actually, you know what, we're into that too. It's filled with like-minded individuals. So with that being said, keep in mind your call sign is publicly available. So we've touched on this before. If you look,
I have an episode for you?
I got an episode for you. Yeah. For the first little while, if you looked my call sign up, it gave you my home address. We identified that about 7 or 8 episodes into me mentioning my call sign and went, oh, that's a bad idea. And now it's not. So you can actually ask Industry Canada to suppress your home address. So it's not on the publicly available database. But keep that in mind. If you do not ask them, and your home address is what you use to register your license, which technically that's what you should be doing if that's where your main radio apparatus is going to be, it's going to be publicly available. Lesson learned. But so keep that in mind. You're also going to be outside of CQ. You're going to hear me most likely say QSL. So Quebec Sierra Lima. That is a Q code. Ham radio was full of Q codes, but that Q code is either do you acknowledge or can you hear me? Or it can be the reverse of yes, I hear you, I acknowledge your transmission. So you'll hear some radio operators come back, say my call sign and say QSL. I'll come back and say, yeah, QSL, I hear you. And we'll get into some signal reports. So that brings me to the next thing we're probably going to hear tonight is signal reports. Big thing in ham radio is giving a report. So there'll be most likely you'll hear like a 5.9, 5.7, 5.8, and that talks about signal clarity and signal strength. So the first side of it is 5. 5 is the top level you can give somebody. Super strong signal, super clear, no issues hearing you at all. It's like you're sitting in the room beside me, and then we go from 5 down to 1. 1 is I can kind of sort of maybe hear you. It's really, really, really rough. And then going from 1 to 9 is the signal strength. So looking at your radio or going off a ear, the strength of what you're hearing, you give them a rating there from 1 through 9. Now, not all operators actually give you a proper signal report. Some will just give you 5.9 because I think it's faster and they just don't care. Some will give you a legitimate signal strength and signal clarity report. So it is what it is. Like I said, some give, some don't. You will hear a lot of contesters that just give an exchange in 5.9. Everybody says 5.9 because they want to move fast. They don't want to be guessing at things. For the contacts we're doing tonight, chances are we will hear proper signal reports. And you'll hear me giving people proper signal reports just because I think it's important to let them know what things sound like on my end. And then beyond that, you'll possibly, there's a question?
No. So just someone on one of the live had a question. Ham license, is it federal, provincial, international?
Aha.
Before we get way too far, right? And completely forget about it.
Fantastic question. So ham license is a federal license. So it's issued by Industry Canada. They went through and they have a new name now that's like a mile long as typical government agency, but it is a federally issued license. So my call sign being VE3 or Victor Echo 3 designates Ontario. So you'll hear VE3 or VA, Victor Alpha 3. Those are Ontario call signs. And then you'll hear other calls throughout Canada that have different numbers associated to them. So they'll be like VE3, VE2, VE5. But those are all Canadian stations in different provinces. In the States, I'm not 100% sure how it works, but they have different designations as well for their call signs. There are agreements for Canada and the USA. So if you go and visit the US with your Canadian license, you can still operate using your Canadian license. There's certain rules that you have to identify a certain way. So like VE3EPN being my call /8 being the designator of one of the states in the US. You have to designate the area that you're operating in, and you have to use the rules that are in place in that country that apply to your license. So you'd have to read up on what the total rules and regulations are. But it is a federal thing with some international interlooped in there with agreements with different countries to allow you to operate using your own Canadian license. Some countries just simply we don't have the agreement with, and you'd have to go through their licensing process or some kind of a process to be allowed to transmit in their country if you so want to do. It is pretty standard for U.S. citizens to come to Canada and transmit. I actually ran into one here at Bass Lake Provincial Park where I go to do some parks on the air activations. Ran into an American licensed operator that was there doing a parks on the air activation and just threw out his call sign /VE, so /Victor Echo, and was able to operate here with full privileges that he had in the States. So can completely work, happens quite a bit. And it's kind of neat to see. So hopefully that answers the question for you. Other things. So beyond calling CQ for seeking other stations to call me to make a contact, you might just hear me say QRZ, which is another Q code for who is calling me, or is there somebody else looking to talk to me? Interchangeable with CQ. It really depends on operator style for that. If, for example, I'm out doing parks on the air and I have a whole bunch of people calling me, I won't call CQ again. I will just simply say, okay, QRZ, which means I'm ready for the next available station to call, and then we'll get the next station in and go through the process again. So a couple of things you're going to hear me say as we go. If there's something you're not sure about, throw it in the live chat. If you're watching, panelists, if you got a question, obviously just pipe up and ask. And
Yeah, I
and
do.
We'll get going. Yep, go for it, Jeff.
Oh, well, it's not a question. Just for the users, if you could clarify the two types of licenses: the basic and or basic with honors, and the advanced.
Sure, yeah. So in Canada, there are various levels, same as in the US. There's various levels of licensing. So when you first get into writing an exam, you're going to write your basic exam. So the basic exam is 100 questions. It's multiple choice. Here's a shocker. It's made publicly available prior to writing the exam. So the entire question bank is published online by the Canadian government. You can actually go and have a test generated for you of 100 questions out of the pool, and you can go run through the test and see where you sit. So kind of take the exam jitters away, because you will be able to know what you're facing. There's, I think it's what, 1,000 questions in the bank roughly or so. So you're never going to memorize all of them, but unless you've got some kind of a fantastic memory. So I shouldn't say everybody won't. Somebody out there is going to email me and say, I can.
I've seen that movie.
So,
Possible.
yeah, seen that movie. Yeah. So,
Well, and there's some easy gimme questions. The phonetic alphabet is part of the test bank, so there's 26 questions you can study pretty easily, right? That sort of thing. So
yeah, they're certainly not out to trick you. It's all publicly available, and I can throw links in the show notes to where all that is, or you can just type in Canadian amateur radio. Make sure you get the radio part in there. You're going to get some weird results in Google, and then away you go. So, yeah.
there's also a number of free apps that pull that database of questions and just sort of have them all local on your phone, and you can just kind of cycle through.
Are you talking about if you forget the radio part, or with the radio part?
Do not forget the radio part, unless you're looking for something completely different. Then you might even come across our OnlyFans page. You never know. So after your basic, if you write the basic and you score a score of 80% or higher, you get what's called basic with honors. So now you sound important. So what that gives you is access to all of the HF frequencies. So if you write and you get 79% or lower, you get basic. 80% or higher, you get basic with honors. And that opens up just the basic. You don't you get some lower HF ability, but you don't get the entire HF frequencies available to you. If you get honors, then you do. And that would be equivalent to the US listeners to obtaining a general license. And then if you want to go and rate your advanced, it's a 50 question exam. Again, publicly available database of questions, and it opens you up to be able to build your own radios. So basic can build from a kit, advanced can make the kit. Gives you a little bit more power abilities and a couple other privileges. Nothing overly crazy. You can hang out with just your basic with honors and be happy. If you don't get your basic with honors, you go and rate your advanced, then that opens up all the HF frequencies for you. There's also Morse code that you can write or listen and transmit and get that on your endorsement on your license as well. No longer required though. So that's an important one. A lot of people still think Morse code is required to get into ham radio. No longer required to do it to write the exam. You just do the 100 question multiple choice exam. If you pass it, you get your call sign. You can do Morse code later on, or you don't have to do it at all. Completely up to you.
Before we go on, I kind of got confused. So you can get your basic with honors, and then you can go write your advanced, right? Give or take.
You can write your basic exam.
Yeah, and if you get over 80,
you get honors. If you get under 80 and you just get basic, you can still go and write your advanced.
Okay, that's where I was going with it. So going advanced. So does that open up the same? Well, I guess more, but it opens up that extra HF frequency.
And gives you some more power output and a couple other privileges.
You didn't have technically because you didn't get a good enough score. Okay.
Yep.
But you can,
is there a way
you can
to
go back
get-
and you can go back and rewrite it as well. I mean,
Okay.
you'd have to pay the fee obviously a second time, but you could go back and give it a second shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's actually a good point, Jeff, is the fee. Fee wise, examiners are allowed to charge a reasonable amount to recoup costs that they incur for proctoring the test. So for example, when I wrote mine, it was $20. Not the end of the world. What they're charging now, I don't know. But
Yeah, but that's like 2 eggs nowadays. I don't know if I'm up for that.
So if I take the course, it costs me say the $100, right? $50 for the course, $50 for the book. I go and take the test. It costs me another $20 for the examiner, as an example.
I don't know if RAC charges separately for the exam after the basic exam or not. They did for the advanced. So,
Okay. So the basic might be included in the course cost.
I don't know.
Probably not. I took the course, and then I had my test done locally, and it cost me $20.
So there you go.
Okay. So now let's say I fail that. I can rewrite by paying another $20, $30, whatever the test, whatever the examiner determines.
Yep.
Is there
$20
a certain
is
amount?
really going right.
But let's say I fail the first one, second one, third one. Can I just keep redoing?
Yep. There's no time limit. There's no restriction on. You could turn around and rewrite the minute after you found out you failed if you want.
But what I'm getting at is,
of course.
can I rewrite 20 times before they say no? Go back and take the test again. Go back and take the course again. Sorry.
You don't have.
Because they're
never
making
took- I never took a
$20
course.
by 20 times you've written that test. That's some
Yeah.
good
You know what I
bang.
I never took a course for basic. I just
Okay.
self-studied. So
No.
you don't have to take a course. You can just find an examiner. And if anybody is looking for an examiner, I can. I've still got a list of them from when I went through the advanced course. You can go ahead and I can get it to you if you want to fire an email in. Kevin in the live chat here is mentioning he did his test online. There's no fee charged at all. And I did my test online for advanced and it was $20. So it all depends on your examiner and what they want to charge for his or her time. You will find some local clubs as well that will do tests for no charge. It really, it's all dependent on your area and the examiners that you come across. It's completely run by them.
So is there like a time restraint? Do you have like an hour to do the 100 questions, 2 hours, or is it like just do it? Or
I
is
don't
there a
remember
time
the kind of
restraint?
time. Yeah, I don't think there was.
No,
No, I
not
don't.
on mine.
I don't. Yeah. No, I don't remember
So-
being stressed at the time at all.
So for example, you were talking about, local ham clubs. So there might be like a time where someone is already available for 3-4 hours doing something on a repeater or something. And it's just like, hey, if anybody wants to come, right, it already might not cost him much, that it's next to nothing, that he can, take a little bit of time and supervise someone. So that's a good way to maybe get into.
So when
Yeah,
I
for
when
sure.
I when I did mine, actually, it was kind of funny. The local, well, not the local club to my area, but the next town over, every Thursday morning they meet in a parking lot behind the local McDonald's for a weekly meet. They get their coffees, they shoot the crap, whatever. And the guy said, "We're going to be there at this time. You want to write your test? You just come down here and write your test." So they all sat around and we chewed the fat and whatever. And I wrote my test and I could have been in and out of there in a half an hour, but I was kind of talking with them as I was trying to do my test and whatever. And it took me about 45 minutes. And I was in and out.
Like I
So
said,
that
hams
$20, you just bought coffee for everybody that was there. That's all.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah,
But you know what? I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm not
Absolutely.
disagreeing. I'm not harping on them. I'm like, but like some people could charge ridiculous fees and just, but they were like, hey, we're already going to be here. $20 buys coffee for maybe most of the group or whatever.
I highly doubt anybody would charge a ridiculous fee because there are enough testers. And I found, 3 or 4 of them and they were all $20. So, and they were all local in the area. So, I mean, if you've got somebody out there that's going to try and charge $50 or $60 for a test, I highly doubt they're going to get anybody.
Okay.
Oh, and I think a lot of ham clubs are just so welcoming, so excited to have more people come into the hobby. There's room for everyone. And, a lot of the people who proctor exams do it just out of an interest in furthering the hobby. They have no interest in making money. They just want to get more people in. So I like the people I've met at my ham club were so intelligent and so welcoming, and it was just a really, really fun experience.
Unger's got a good point here in the live chat. Going through writing, it says the proctor would allow a person to write 3 times before he wouldn't allow someone to write again without proof of doing a course. But that was the proctor's rule, not an Industry Canada examiner rule. So, like I said, every examiner or every proctor is different. They will have their own way of doing things and their own kind of rules. Like this one, you can write 3 times and then show me you've taken a course before you write again, which I think is fair. You don't want to waste their time, also, right?
Yeah, right. Waste my time. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to make a quick buck, but also at the same time, like, there's a point where I'm like, I kind of feel bad taking your $20 again. Right? Depending on the person, most moral people, right? Like,
yeah.
Look, like, I'm not saying you got to go spend money, but like, you got to go do something to try and, like, not just keep throwing 20, 30, 40, whatever the amount, right? Like, I'm just like, there's something here. Go figure something out, to make it more, feasible for you and not a financial burden to try and get this piece of paper.
Exactly.
Because you think it gets you a discount on mustard.
Oh boy. All right. With
good.
the ham sandwich segue there, how about we flip the radio on here and let's have a listen.
Good. Yeah.
So, drum roll, please. We're going to see if this actually works.
It did last night.
So, can everybody hear that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, what we're hearing here is a little bit of Morse code. It's not exactly what you think you would hear, but let's flip around a little. There we go. So, everybody can hear that?
Yep.
So, this is Morse code. Bunch of beeps, bunch of dits and dahs. We're sitting right now on 7.035, which is 40 meter band. And sounds like there's a couple operators going back and forth here. So those say that the Morse code is dead. It's all over the lower section of 40. It's all over the lower section of most bands. So we can move along. There it is again. So now we're on 7.020. And these guys, this one's a little bit slower. So this will be a little bit easier to kind of decipher. I'm not going to do it live because I'm still learning this stuff. I'm not even going to try to decipher for you guys what's being said here. I can pick out a few things here and there, but just to give you an idea what this sounds like, right?
I can make up and think of what they say. But
Sure.
Who's going to prove me wrong?
Then we'd be done on everybody else that can speak Morse code. Here we are on that 7015. And again, we've got some Morse code going. So it's out there. And there's a good, strong signal. And they're going at a good pace. But then if we move along, there's a couple more going. Okay, so now we're getting into digital. So if you got your speakers turned up, I'd suggest you turn them down a little bit because the digital stuff gets a little ear piercing, but we're going to step into it here in a second. So I'll give everybody a count of 3 to get their speakers down. And then away we go. So, not very pretty. I do not expect anybody to actually understand what this is. This is all computer decode. So, again, I think this is PSK or RIDI, one or the other.
Sounds like the first internet signal.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I was like, I feel like I'm in an episode of X-Files.
Or that, yeah.
Could be, yeah. But this is literally computers sending transmission back and forth over the computer. And it can make incredibly long distances with this. But again, it's reliant on having a computer system, right? So you just got to keep that in mind.
So you mean computer system? Like, what do you mean by computer system?
The computer
Like
you're
a
sitting in
computer
front of
to
right now.
computer? So it's like sending a text message over
Yeah, that's a good
or
way
an
that's a
email,
good
let's say.
analogy. Yep, yeah, that's a good analogy. You're using your computer, your laptop, plugged into your radio, and then you're sending signal back and forth.
So can someone decipher it with a radio, or you need computer to computer for that?
Some radios will have certain modes built into them. Like RIDI is one that I've seen built into some radios. Most don't have it built in to decode. You just have to you have to interface your computer with the radio.
So the ones that could, would it like give you like a robotic voice or like a screen, a text across the screen or whatever?
Yeah, it'll show you the deciphered text. It'll put it on the screen, and then you have to type in your message, and it'll send a message back out. So it's handy if you've got the ability to do it. Like my Zygu X6100, I can do that with. So I gotta have a little Bluetooth keyboard, and I can punch messages in, and it'll send a digital out. I haven't used it yet, but it's doable.
I've got it. I don't know if it works. I got it.
So I've got a question for you.
I know it works. I know it works for voice. I haven't used it for digital. Question.
So if computers can modulate and demodulate signal, then can we do encryption?
As long as it's published.
The encryption
with ham radio. Yep. It has to be a published encryption algorithm that anybody can then decrypt.
Okay.
Is that
but
because
if you
it's
publish it somewhere?
It doesn't have to be easily available. It just needs to be
So I could
published.
make my own and publish it and then be able to use it. Published with who? With Industry Canada?
That I don't know. It just says, last I read, it said must be published.
Like I put it on like the 80th page of like this weird website. And, like,
well, it sounds a bit like the current computer scheme of encryption, which uses a mixture of public and private keys.
Mm-hmm.
And so the public keys are available through public key exchanges, and the private keys are, of course, held privately and exchanged over USB stick or secure media, secure networks, so that they never touch an unsecure network. And I'm just now really going to check that out. Thank you so much, Eric.
Yeah, no problem. We can nerd out about this at a later date too.
Oh, definitely. You can count on it.
Yeah. All right. We're going to jump over to FT8 now. So again, if you manage to turn your speakers up while we turn the radio down, turn your speakers back down, because here we go. So for the radio nerds out there, you will know this sound bar none. This is FT8. So it is a very popular mode where you can really transmit around the world. It takes very little to actually get the signal out and get it decoded. The only thing with FT8 is it is literally, hey, here's my call sign. I'm looking to make contact. Next radio goes, yeah, okay, I hear you. Then you send back, okay, cool, I hear you as well. All right, thanks a lot. Good to know we can hear each other. Next. There is really no communication outside of that. So you're not sending messages back and forth. You're not sending pictures or text or voice. It's literally just to see what the propagation is like and see how far your signal can get. And then you'll get signal reports back. It's all digital. It's all over computer again. Very, very popular mode, but very automatic and very much so. Like I said, my radio says, hey, looking for somebody. Somebody replies back, hey, cool, I can hear you. And I send back, okay, I can hear you as well. And then, okay, thanks a lot for the report. 73, which is good wishes. And then, okay, thanks, 73. And then that's the end of the contact. So again, that's what it sounds like. It's a neat mode, and you can get contact all over the world with it. On days where propagation is really, really no good, I will go over to FT8 and kind of play around with it just to make some contacts. But you're not getting much else out of it.
What's the first word you said? propagation.
Propagation. So that's the distance that your signal will travel. Or
Okay, so
as
you're saying
some,
like using
computers-
regular, I'll say regular in this scenario, but like using
Yeah.
a regular ham, like it doesn't work. So you'll switch to something that you can get a lot easier further. You can't make signal with anybody
Right.
on your regular
Yeah,
antenna.
so
I guess.
there's days where the signal propagation or how far your signal will travel around the world, just the bands are what we refer to as dead. They're not getting far. Your signal's not transmitting nicely. It's just it's just not going anywhere. They're dead. So if you switch over to FT8, it's a mode that's known to work still in that kind of environment. So I'll use that if I've got some time to play radio and I just want to make a couple contacts and I want to, get the radio going. I'll hop over to FT8 to use that. I prefer doing voice mode where I can talk to people. Lots of other people enjoy just FT8 because you don't have to talk to people. It's really user preference.
Oh, that's awesome! I'm even more intrigued now.
In terms of,
Yep.
sorry guys, in terms of propagation, what's happening up in the ionosphere has a huge impact on how these signals bounce around. So a frequency that is lovely and clear one day might be totally useless the next day based on sunspots, a butterfly flapping its wings somewhere. It's just such a almost random thing. So it's not like you can just set a specific frequency and know that's going to work for you. You have to kind of shop around, sort of see what's working for you.
Yep, 100%. All right, so we'll cruise around a little bit more on the frequency here and see what we can hear. So this is just noise. And you'll hear this a lot. This kind of threw me off when I first started in HF. It's like, why do I hear this? Am I supposed to hear this? Yes, this is just noise that you're going to hear on the band.
So is that just regular noise? Like, there's nobody
basically
there. Like, it's just one of those things where like it's might be a signal that you can't actually hear, but like just does a thing where you can't decipher it.
Yep, pretty much. I'm going to just throw out there where we've got this noise going. This is WinLink.
R2D2.
From what I can tell. Yeah, R2D2. So this sounds like it's somebody. Yeah, this is somebody that's checking their email. So technically, we can grab this because it's in the clear. We can decode it and we can hear or we can read exactly what it is that they're receiving right now. So keep that in mind. If you do WinLink over HF, it's in the clear, but they are checking their email right now. Is someone trying to order a pizza with pineapple on it? Melissa's asking in the live chat. Don't know. I can't decode it.
But the key should be available to everybody.
There is no key. That's just out in the open, so you can just decode it.
Oh, okay. Then I'm more okay.
Yeah, so now we're back in a little bit more Morse code.
Yeah.
And now we're going to get into the bands where when I see somebody, Vera. Okay. Yeah. Kirk's mentioned that's Vera. So I'm just guessing. My ears are not tuned that well to figure out what it is. So.
Okay, but what's Vera? I have more questions than answers now.
If Kirk wants to mention them there, I know Vera AC for text chat. If that's the same thing, if Kirk wants to hop back in.
Okay, so so that's the type of communication.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I didn't understand. My bad. Okay.
All good.
What's the
JS8? Believe it or not, here ham isn't just radio voice to voice. You can, as Eric said, that person was checking their email or a text message, or you could the old radios, they used to call them packet radios, and you could make a packet of something, a file of some sort, and send it to somebody and they could read it. So it's not just a voice to voice thing, but that's 90% of what you do.
Yeah. Okay.
So here, so that annoying squealing is somebody tuning an amp up, which is always nice.
This frequency was nice and clear a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah. That's the other fun part with HF radio. You will literally have a frequency that is beautiful and clear, and then all of a sudden it'll drop off and nothing, and then 2-3 minutes later, beautiful and clear again. It's one of the frustrations, but
Oh,
they're there. See, and there they are.
Michael, it seems that you've worked everybody here on the little list here, and please stay by, and we'll continue on here just with a little bit of a round table there.
Oh, so it sounds like a net.
Yeah, Chris, I just wanted to ask you, do you do a lot of mogul skiing mostly there, Chris? I don't do that much mogul skiing.
So we can hear some people chatting. Looks like they're doing a net of some sort. You got a net controller who's going through a list of contacts. And we could hear one person talking very clearly. I can hear another person very faintly, which is another thing that you'll get on ham radio. You can hear some people clear as day as if they're sitting right beside you, and the next person, maybe not.
Oh, Roger. Have you traveled and done any of the...
See? So this station here is nice and clear.
In Europe and Switzerland or over that way there, see, Chris? All over.
So we'll keep moving along here. We'll see if we can pick anybody else up. And if we can't, we'll see if we can get someone to come back to us. Cool.
So in terms of the frequency bands, if you're using Morse code, it uses the least of the bandwidth. You know, if you're thinking about it, if you're trying to pass a message with Morse code, you can just, you're slipping little beads through the keyhole, right? If you're doing digital communication, you need a little more. If you're doing voice, you need even more. You have to open the whole door. It takes a lot more of that bandwidth. So that's why if propagation is poor, you can still get Morse code or digital through, but your voice communications don't travel as well.
Perfect. So let's see if we got anybody else here. Yeah, so that's going to be a radio station somewhere overseas.
So the interesting thing,
Saturday.
yeah, there were some people talking on this frequency a little while ago. I'm sort of doing the production assistant thing and running around in the background on the frequencies, trying to find interesting stuff. And there's some guys talking crystal clear on this. And then all of a sudden a broadcast frequency took over and it sounds like broadcast. What
And
I'm
around
hearing,
this time of night, that happens on 40 meters. You'll get broadcasts from overseas that use these frequencies, and totally legitimate.
interestingly, what I was hearing through the podcast on StreamYard sounded really staticky. Just now, that sample you're sending out, I've got 2 sets of headphones on and I'm listening to that same frequency, and it's coming in really clear for me. And I mean, you know, our radios are only a couple 100 kilometers apart, so it's fickle species she is.
Location.
It's true. Yep.
And luck.
Yeah, that too.
And some bubble gum and a paperclip.
Not wrong. Let's
Well,
see.
and also interestingly, we've talked about different antenna setup before, and you can have an HF antenna on your car. You can have a permanent rig way high up in the air with 260 odd feet of antenna there. Or in my case, I've got a fairly long antenna just across my backyard, but it's only about 10 feet off the ground. It's not a permanent installation. We talked about NVIS on a previous episode, so I'll just kind of refer back to that. But it's geared towards more of that local transmission. If it's hitting the atmosphere at a sharper angle, it comes down at a sharper angle. So it's getting closer rather than sort of skipping farther away. So, antennas are funny, fickle things, but there are some things you can do to control what if anything, you're going to hear.
It's true. I believe we've got an Italy station here on 161.5. Some of you guys can hear it. It's a little low. So we'll listen to him for a second here, and if he's starting to call CQ, we'll see if we make contact with him, because that'll be kind of a fun one to do here. Yeah, so we can hear him. That's some of the fun with ham radio, is just hurry up and wait. Give it another second here. Sounds like he's kind of ending it off. Oh. Yeah, he's calling. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November.
Thank you, my name is Papa. I'm America Festival, and the location is Naples in South of Italy. Victor Echo 3 Papa is still in Norway. Italy is Quebec, Lima Sierra, over.
So tried to get him there, but we can hear him good and clear. And he's talking to another Victor Echo 3 station, so he's talking to another Ontario station.
Okay, so since technically I could get everything to do ham radio license, I could sit here and like just play around like you're doing right now and listen as long as I don't transmit.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Now, do suppliers or people that sell certain radios require you to have a license before you can purchase their equipment?
I've never been asked. I'll put it that way.
Like,
technically, according to the Radio Communications Act, possessing a radio that's able to transmit without having the proper licensing, not supposed to happen.
You're not supposed to, or?
Yeah, you're not supposed to possess a radio that's able to transmit if you don't have the appropriate licensing for it, according to the Radio Communications Act. Everybody listening to this is an adult. You make your own choices.
No, but I'm just curious, right? Like, I mean, the ham radio thing was just like, oh, you know, it'd probably be something good, but like actually being able to listen to it like tonight kind of got me a little more intrigued, where I'm like, you know, that dead time, like everybody goes to bed a little bit earlier, or you know, but like,
yep,
you know, instead of sitting there and scrolling Instagram or watching something, you know, like doing something where it might be something, dip your toe in a little bit more, where it may push more people. So that's why I was inquiring, because I'm like,
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with listening compared to transmitting, is how I understood it. But, okay,
yeah, that's what I've always told people.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can buy a scanner, and the scanner can scan the frequency, and you can just sit and listen And
100%.
I mean, I don't know if they go to those frequencies or not.
Yep, they will. Yep.
Yep. So there's an option that you can just.
Yep. And I'll put it this way: this radio that I have, I bought this secondhand from a shortwave radio listener. So he was not a licensed ham, and he had this radio. You can buy them. There's just a technicality. Last time I read the Radio Communications Act, it said if it's capable of transmitting, you have to have the proper licensing. That was also, just for clarity, that was like 5-6 years ago I read it. So there could be amendments as well. So I would just reference the Radio Communications Act if you're worried about it. I've never been asked for my license when I've bought radios, and I've bought them commercially and I bought them secondhand. And I've never been asked. So.
Okay, just this has got me a little more intrigued on the whole process compared to get your ham license radio, right? Like just
it's the whole point of this episode.
Yeah, no, which I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. Even though we did all the troubleshooting last night, it was
more troubleshooting than it was actually doing comms, right?
Yeah, but hey, it got it working. But like, this has got me a little more intrigued on like, oh, maybe I should just like figure out if I can get something and like see if it's something that's long term feasible as like a pastime or a hobby of some sort. And if not, I'll just sell you a radio.
Perfect. Deal.
Okay.
All right. So now that we've kind of cruised around, we've heard a couple stations. Let's try an open frequency, and we'll see if we can just throw a call out for those that have been waiting to try to make contact. Let's do that.
Yeah, I've seen a few call signs. So
yeah.
if listening, for example, right? Like say I get a radio or whatever, and I decide I want to scan some frequencies, and everybody says their signs, and I write them all down, and then I decide to go on the Googles and figure out where those signs. Will it tell me like this person was in Italy, this person was, not so much that I don't need their actual home address, but just to figure out, like start mapping out, just being like, wow, like I was listed as someone that was in Australia, and then a person that was in Italy, and then someone that was in Toronto, and someone that was here, and like, so if you just mark down all those call signs, technically you can kind of figure out where those places of origins are for all those.
You'll know that like a VE3, a VA3, so Victor Alpha, Victor Echo, are in Ontario. You'll know that. It doesn't, like mine doesn't say specifically where I am. But there's web pages like QRZ.com where you have to be a licensed ham to gain access to. That will have an address in it if you put it in. So there's different spots you can look around. Mine has a PO box. Right?
But so provinces, for example, across Canada, every province has a different beginning or specific code and a specific sequence that
specific number. So VE1, VE2, VE3, VE4, VE5, etc.
So that's generic.
Some radios that you buy actually come with a map that shows all different precursors there. So apparently Greenland is OX, and apparently the United Nations headquarters has its own call sign.
Look at that.
Okay, so
Scott in the live chat here has got a good point. Just says he knows a few people that have HF radios that are not licensed, but they don't transmit either. So it's good to listen around the bands, get excited about getting your license. 100%. I don't see the harm in having one. I just like to give that precursor, that warning that when I did read the code, it did say you can't possess a device that's able to transmit unless you have the appropriate licensing. Again, caveat to that was 5-6 years ago. It was the last time I read it. Go and check it. It's in around section 4, subsection 5-ish area. I have a weird memory for that stuff.
I could see that as probably not a giant high priority for
probably not. If you're not transmitting and you're not causing trouble.
Right. But okay.
I just don't want to put out there into the interwebs that the Canadian Prepper podcast said I could possess it.
Yeah, and I mean, hold on, let me check
So guys,
go ahead.
Prohibitions under section 4.
Yep.
I guess subsection 2. No persons shall manufacture, import, distribute, lease, offer for sale, or sell any radio apparatus interfering, causing equipment, or radio sensitive equipment for which a technical acceptance certificate is required under this act.
Yep.
Okay, so that means whoever sold it to me is in the wrong.
Yep.
Me
Correct.
being in possession of it is different.
Number 5 is minister's powers.
So it's changed. Okay.
hang
Maybe it's
on
changed then.
here.
So how that's written is I don't have my license. I'm not wrong for owning it. The person that sold it to me is in the
Yeah,
wrong.
what that's saying is they can't sell or import. For example, when I got a call from Industry Canada a while ago about selling the Baofeng radios, those are radios that were not Industry Canada certified. They didn't meet the requirements of the government of Canada to actually be able to be here and meet the requirements of transmitting. So that radio wasn't certified, so it can't be sold. Is my understanding. At least that's what they told me when they called, and they said either you stop selling them or we fine you $100,000. So I said, okay, I'll stop selling them. But
Yeah.
that's what that section's talking about.
So, section 4, I guess subsection A or 1A and B is no person shall, except under and in accordance with the radio authorization, install, operate, or possess radio apparatuses other than what is capable of receiving, of broadcasting, and that is not
There you
a
go.
yeah. So from what I'm getting of this is you can't even own one that can just receive it.
That can transmit. You can own one that can receive. You can't own one that transmits.
Okay,
Unless you're,
yeah. I'm reading that the opposite way. But yes, you can't transmit unless you have a license.
So there you go.
Okay,
There's
so,
the official answer.
all right. So in the live chat on the use tubes, you can transmit without a license in a case of emergency. Everybody has heard that. Is that technically true?
100%. Yep.
Okay.
It's in the code.
So that's the kind of scenario you're out in Algonquin Park, you're in distress, you don't have cell signal, you get to a ranger station and there's a radio there, right? That sort of scenario where, yes, they're not going to fine you for using the radio in that situation.
Yeah. So
I
in
I
that
rather enjoy
scenario,
this
yeah.
argument. Go ahead.
No, so I was just inquiring, like, so same scenario, you're in an area that doesn't have anything, but you have something in your vehicle that is capable of transmitting. You've never used it because you only listen and you don't have anything. Like, is that maybe a gray area that we may not want to get into? But like, I'm just curious on maybe the muddy water of that scenario compared to like, yeah, you're in the woods and you find this cabin that's got like, the door's not technically locked and he's got a radio and just being like, hey, like a bear chased me and ate half of my leg and I need help. I understand that, but just, is the same legalities of potentially for having something in my house where something happens, giant thing, and that's the only way, or we're just not going to touch that because of legalities.
Let's not touch that one with
Okay.
a 10-foot pole.
Okay, no. So like I was like, okay, well,
I know.
curious.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
love conversations like this and debating law.
Yeah.
It's I do quite enjoy it, but we'll leave that one to maybe the after chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Pierre,
I'd like
whatever
to
you
send
have, wrap it in Christmas paper, put Eric's name on it. He'll
I was
happily
bringing
receive
it to him and I needed it.
after chat. Perfect. I like this argument from
After
Kirk
party.
as well. We're going into that gray area. It says just unplug the microphone, then it's incapable of transmitting. Is it? Is it not?
Yeah. But if you decide to not have the microphone anywhere near, yeah, that's a whole gray area we won't get into.
Yep.
Because
I do
then
like
I'm
that
getting
argument.
in trouble.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right, let's get back on topic here. We were going to try and find a frequency to chat on. Denny's got a question about CB radio under the same thing. So CB radio citizens band, as far as I know in Canada, it's not licensed. So
no, it's public like an FRS or GMRS radios, aren't they?
Yep, as far as I know. Yep. All right, let's find ourselves a frequency. And we're going to see if we can get some contacts going here, because that is why everybody's here tonight.
I'm here for the whiskey.
Well, there's that too.
Whiskey and friendship.
Yeah.
Sounds like my favorite frequency might be used right now. 7223. I like that one for reasons.
Ooh, I have a feeling I know why.
Yeah, it's used. 220 is not though. Let's try that. Oh, may have lied.
It was 7308.
Ooh. Let's see. Anything on your end there, Scott?
7308's out of the amateur bands.
It is slightly out. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. My bad.
it's all good. Yeah, this one's got a little bit of bleed over on this one. That's these guys. So we're hearing 7218 over on 7220. So let's try 7235. All right, and I threw it in the live chat there too for folks that are listening, or listening and watching the live chat there. So when I switch over here to transmit, that's the only fun part. Is anything I say into this microphone is then transmitted over the air. So if there's questions or something like that, I am going to need a second to switch my setup back around, so I'm not answering your question over the air, because that would just be a little awkward. So bear with me as I'm switching things over. But let's do a quick check here. We'll see if the frequency is being used, and then let's see first if we can make contact with Scott, and then if we can't, I'll open it up to anybody else who's listening, and we'll see what we can do. So I'm going to switch things over here. It is the frequency in use. Victor Echo 3 Echo Papa November. Is the frequency in use. Victor Echo 3 Echo Papa November. All right, nothing heard. Victor Echo 3 Kilo Bravo Alpha from Victor Echo 3 Echo Papa November. Victor Echo 3 Kilo Bravo Alpha from Victor Echo 3 Echo Papa November.
I'm hearing you very faintly over the radio, and you're not hearing me coming back at you. That being said, I think Scott in the live chat said he's going to fire up his rig, so we'll see if we can get him. I was trying to jump into some of the nets that were going on to see if I can interrupt them and get them to join in our podcast.
All right, nothing heard on the call to Victor Echo 3 Kilo Bravo Alpha. So this is Victor Echo 3 Echo Papa November calling CQ, CQ, CQ. Victor Echo 3 Echo Papa November calling CQ, CQ, CQ. Any station, anywhere. Standing by for calls. CQ, CQ, CQ. Victor Echo 3 Echo Papa November calling CQ, CQ, CQ. CQ, CQ, CQ. Victor Echo 3 Echo Papa November calling CQ, CQ, CQ. Any station, anywhere. Standing by for calls. Papa Sierra November station.
Victor Echo 3, Papa Sierra November.
Victor Echo 3, Papa Sierra November. Got you here about a 5-5.
Yeah, you're on the line on me myself. Name here is Scott, Sierra Charlie Oscar Tango Tango. Yeah, we're probably too close, and that might be why, but I've got a little bit of noise going on. So back to you. VE3 Echo Papa November, we should see it there.
QSL, Scott. The first name here is Eric, Echo Romeo India Charlie. Just doing a quick HF test here, actually live streaming right now. Don't know if you're a listener or not, but just demonstrating HF radio and how it operates and kind of getting the word out there.
Can you repeat the call sign again, please?
Certainly. Call sign is Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November, and located in Aurelia.
Cool. Good call. Yeah. A friend of mine listened on the podcast, and he just threw out the frequency, and I was up on 80 meters, and I put it down and finally give him a call and give you guys a bird.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Whereabouts are you located, if you don't mind?
I am in a little town called Petrolia. It's 20 minutes east of Sarnia, Ontario, just by the Michigan-Ontario border.
Oh, QSL. Awesome. So just outside of Sarnia. Perfect. Well, I appreciate coming back to me, Scott. I'm going to push forward here, see if we can get contact with anybody else. But thanks for popping in to say hello.
Hey, no problem. Hopefully you get a good hunt tonight.
Hopefully. So Victor Echo 3, Papa Sierra November, 73 from Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November.
73, Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa. Yeah, you were like a 5-5 to me, just by the way.
QSL the 5-5, thanks. QRZ, any other stations out there? Station with ending Bravo Alpha. Kilo Charlie 2, Echo Bravo Alpha. Got you about a 5-5 here, 55 into Aurelia, Ontario. Sure. Call here is Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. And sorry, what was your QTH again? You're fading pretty bad on me there. The joys of 40 meters. Try her again if you don't mind. QSL got Boulder, New York there, I believe. QSL?
So interestingly, I am able to hear Albany, New York in the United States fairly clearly. So it's interesting how just a couple of 100 kilometers difference makes a world of difference.
All right, Kilo Charlie 2, Echo Bravo Alpha. Sorry, I've lost you in the noise floor here. I've got a relay, though, from another operator that's given us your location. So appreciate it, but I'll say 73 for now. Maybe we can make contact later on down the log. QRZ, any other stations out there? All right, so I've just switched my transmit off here for a second. So we've heard from a couple of stations, and we've also seen the differences between location for myself and Scott, where he's been able to hear that station clear as a bell in the States, whereas for us, it completely faded off. It happens. It's something that happens with HF radio. It's an absolute pain because it tends to fade off exactly when you don't want it to, but it's something you learn to fight through. There are options on the radios that you can use to kind of help pull the signal up, kind of cut the noise down. It's all about learning how to use your radio and operate it. For this one here, especially hanging out around 7235, I just know in my area, I get that loud whine every once in a while, and it'll eventually go away, and then we can get back out to making contacts. You also heard me ask, and I didn't mention this Q code when I was doing my preamble there, QTH. That is what is your current location or your home location. So when I asked that station what his QTH was, I was just simply asking him, where are you right now? To kind of hear where he is, to give everybody kind of a geographical idea of where that station was coming in. So, and this is all things that I've learned along the way. I certainly wasn't throwing Q codes out at the beginning, and being able to throw out signal reports and all that quickly. It takes time and practice to learn how to do this. And a lot of operators will help you as you go. This isn't something where you're just going to be transmitting right off the hop and throwing Q codes out and throwing call signs out and throwing signal reports out. Operators will help you, and you'll get a flow too. Everybody you'll see does things differently. Most will start with signal report, first name, and location. Some will just give signal report. It all kind of depends on the operators. No set rule that it has to be like this, unless you're doing contests and such. But that's a different beast altogether. But let's have a listen here and see.
So say I decided to get my license, and I passed the test, obviously, and someone says something, one of those quick QR codes, and I have no clue what the hell that means because my first day on the radio or whatever.
Yep.
Like, is it okay to just be like, look, I don't remember that. Like, what does that mean? And someone
absolutely.
would probably
I
just be
agree
like,
with
you know,
that.
this is what it means. Okay, sorry.
I get that. And sometimes operators will throw Q codes out that I have no idea. And I will just say, I'm sorry, I don't know what that Q code means. Some operators, I'm not going to lie, will get nasty and start chirping at you. And that's when you just spin the dial and go somewhere else. 99% of them will say, yeah, no problem. This is what it means. And then they'll carry on, especially if you say I'm new and I'm just getting on the air, because they want you to stay, right? Because if you disappear and no new hams come in, the hobby disappears, right? So 99% of them are very helpful. I've had one or two that have got pretty snippy with me, and then really it's like, okay, cool, man. And I just spin the dial, go to the next, and don't let them get to you, because they're obviously just great fun at parties, right? So,
okay, thank you.
But it sounds like, we can try that again now. So I'm going to switch back over to transmit here, and we will continue on to see if we can make some more comment or some more contacts
or comments.
Okay. It is a frequency in use. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. Is the frequency in use. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. All right, nothing heard. Calling CQ. CQ. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. Calling CQ. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. Calling CQ. Any station, anywhere. Stand by for calls. CQ. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. Calling CQ. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. Calling CQ. Victor Echo 3, Echo Papa November. Calling CQ. Any station, anywhere. Stand by for calls.
So I can just barely pick out what Eric is saying. I'm just getting a lot of static on the air. But again, knowing our radio setups, that kind of makes sense. I'm probably too close to hear what he has to say. Melissa, to your comment about contests, they will publish contests, and the goal is to make lots of contacts. It's just a way of sort of scheduling lots of people to be on the air and sort of trying to make contacts with everyone else. So you have a little logbook and everyone's trying to make contacts. And it's kind of exciting and fun because a lot of people are on the air. So when Eric sends out a CQ, there's all sorts of people that are answering back, and you sort of fill up that map with all little pins where you're making contacts really quickly because so many people are booked that way. While Eric is talking about that, I'm going to talk about waterfall displays. So part of the reason that I put my radio up on broadcast right now is you can see this little graph showing. If you're just listening, it's sort of a long, basically line bar graph that is centered on whatever frequency my radio is tuned into. But off to either sides, it's looking at other frequencies. So you have a sense of if there's a busy frequency where something is going on, there's a spike higher in that line graph. So you can scroll the wheel along and adjust where you're tuned to. That spike there tells me there's something. It's a constant spike, so it's probably going to be a computer broadcast, versus where you see like a little spike jumping up because there's intermittent transmission of a voice. This was a feature that I was super interested in a prepper, because you have a way of kind of looking around and seeing if anyone is on the air. Sort of, you see a spike, so you can wander over and see if anything's happening there. So it's just a feature that some radios have that I happen to like. This particular one does 50,000 above and below. So that'd be sort of a 0.05 up and down from whatever frequency we're tuned into, so that you can see more of what's going on the air, and in a situation where you're looking for contacts, you can shop around a bit. One of the other interesting things is when you look back to the original Star Wars, a lot of the sound effects you could tell were ham radio, where they're just a little bit off frequency, and it sort of makes it kind of garbled, or some of the beeps. And I find it fascinating how, the Foley artists back then were probably just using ham radio to mimic poor radio communications. So yeah. So I'll tune back to our frequency and see if Eric has come up with anything.
Nothing yet. And now I'm running into a little bit of technical difficulties.
We have two Erics now.
Yeah.
We've successfully managed to clone him.
I don't think the internet can support that. No.
Too much radio nerding.
Yeah.
How about now? Just one of me now?
Just one of you. We'll keep the clone as a spare.
Which one?
Oh, don't you ask questions. Don't you ask questions.
Hey, two is one and one is none. So we'll keep a spare here just in case.
Yeah. We've got Kirk here in the live chat saying he could hear me at a 4.4. So we're getting out there. It's just a matter of getting people. And then we had Keith in the chat saying 5.8 in the Saskatchewan, but not hearing him back. So we're getting out. People are hearing. It's just a matter of getting the receive end of things. And now, of course, something has changed around on my setup, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep transmitting without fixing it. But we'll figure it out in a second here. But it's this is the joys of ham radio. I can see Melissa in the chat mentioning CQ. It does get very cumbersome sitting here saying it over and over and over and over again. I did that for the first probably month or two of seriously actually getting HF going and running. And then I went out and upgraded my HF rig with a little chip that you can add into this radio. And most newer radios will be able to do this as well, where you can actually record your voice and then it'll play it for you. So now when I'm sitting here calling CQ, I'm doing it on the podcast just so everybody gets a feel for what it's like and you can hear me. But when I'm actually sitting here doing it, there's a little button on this radio. It's CH1. It's the first recording. I hit that, and it's about a 20 to 25 second recording of me saying CQ, 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 my call sign. Then it tails off with any station anywhere standing by, like you heard me say. That way I'm not sitting here it can sometimes take up to a half hour of just calling CQ before you get anybody. So definitely worth the investment. If your radio is upgradable to actually add that module, I suggest it if you're seriously going to get into doing this. Or if you're looking to buy a radio, find one that can do it natively, and then you don't have to add it later. This radio was a little bit of soldering to add the chip, not a big deal. But if that kind of stuff makes you wheezy, especially with like a brand new radio, definitely maybe look for one that's got it built in already. But yeah, it's one of the joys of ham radio is sometimes you repeat yourself ad nauseum for about a half hour before you get someone. Just the way it is.
I'm getting married. I'm used to
it. I'm just not even going to go there. Let's see. I don't know what else I could do to make this work the way that we want, but
I have a question about range for you, Eric or Scott.
Sure.
What's the farthest your signal has ever propagated enough that you could establish good comms?
Fantastic question. So I'm pulling my log up here. 2020, October 19th, 25 minutes past midnight UTC, I made contact with Slovak Republic. That was a pretty fun one.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was literally the setup.
There are scenarios where your own wave will travel around the entire globe and echo back in your own ear.
Yeah, you'll contact yourself.
Well, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe one day, Eric, when we were doing the Parks on the Air, we was it Portugal or Spain that we got that one day?
Yeah, so I've got I've got logging software. So that's another thing with HF Radio. A lot of people will log their contacts, and it's for various things like awards and just keeping track of who you've contacted. So I've got mine loaded up here. I've made contact with Alaska, which is not confirmed yet. I really wish they would confirm it because that's worth a point for an award I'm working towards. Aruba, Australia, Azores, Belgium, a bunch of Canada. Let's see what else. Croatia, Cayman Islands, Chile, Czech Republic, Ecuador, a bunch of England stations, Germany, France, Hungary, a bunch of Italy stations, Ireland, Panama, Poland, Portugal, Slovak Republic. Actually, 2 from Slovak Republic. What else? Spain is in here, Slovenia, Switzerland, Ukraine, and then a bunch of United States. So just give you kind of an idea. And that's all literally off of this setup here, which is not, and Venezuela's in here as well, which is not overly complicated. My setup is literally a stock radio that you could buy from wherever you purchase them from and a wire in a tree in the backyard. That's about 30 feet up in the air. It's nothing fancy and it's 100 watts. It's nothing crazy.
And how much current or power does that consume at the socket, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, yeah. So I'm just my regular 110 outlet. Like it's nothing.
Okay.
There's nothing fancy here at all. It's like there's a separate power supply for this radio because they run on DC, right? So the power supply pulls from AC, converts it into DC, and then away you go. But it is nothing fancy. There's no amplification here, nothing like that. So it's very, very basic setup. You don't need, a lot of people think you need a really fancy setup with all these big amplifiers in order to make all these contacts around the world. You don't. It's literally 100-watt rig and a wire in a tree.
And from a perspective, most radios run on 12 volts of DC. Or 13.6, which is what a car battery actually puts out, for that exact reason, so that a radio system can just be sitting there with a big battery and run.
Brilliant. Thank you, Scott. That was taking me to my next question then is, can an off-gridder like myself, who is also proposing to be mobile with his off-the-gridness, yes, I just invented that word. All of you English-speaking folks can cringe. So thank you. And if the power draw is not terribly big, I'm pretty sure one could get such a station up and running in no time flat and be operating in no time, right?
Myself and Jeff, just as an example, we'll go out to the local parks here and do what's called Parks on the Air. It's all portable operation. So I've got a little portable rig. I run just a LifePo 4 battery, and I've got my little amplifier that I can plug into that as well. And we've sat for a couple hours and just collected contacts. I not even run the battery anywhere near down. And we've talked all over the world, and that's Spain, Portugal, United States. And it's literally, there's a tree right by the parking lot. We throw the wire up in the tree, run the cable to the radio, done. And it takes, maybe 7 minutes to set up, Jeff? That's with stopping for coffee.
Coffee with Bailey's, yes. About
Oh,
6,
don't give
7
the secrets
minutes
away,
of that.
Jeff. Don't give the secrets away.
I'm not
Well,
worried
this
about
is-
that.
This is very accessible then to the off-gridder. There's no reason
100%
not
is.
to, just to have good communications alternatives for when the cell fails and for when all else fails. So
Well, no, at
Yeah,
that point,
and-
just sit by the tree and wait for the government.
Yeah, and
Oh, boy.
you know, you see a lot of people that, no, I wouldn't say a lot, but they have like a fancy antenna set up. They've got the big tower and they've got an antenna up and all that stuff. You don't need that to broadcast. Like Eric says, you need a radio, a piece of coax to get you to your antenna, and stretch it between 2 trees, and you're done. Like
That's it.
it's really not difficult at all.
Nope.
I like the
can I use
simplicity.
old speaker wire?
What was that?
Can I use some old speaker wire? Not old
Yep.
speaker wire, but just
That's how I started.
like the
Yep.
2-strand wire.
100%. That's how I started out, with just some speaker wire. You're not going to, don't run high power on it.
No,
Because that's not going to be good. But if you're running,
Yeah, it'll
actually,
melt
some
pretty
people
quick,
will
yeah.
do some people will do speaker wire, and no issue. Just
So-
to give an idea, here in the live chat, we've got a couple of comments about where we were getting to. So we got Scott saying that I could pick me out in Manitoba, 2x2, so really low signal, but I was there, so I was making it in Manitoba. And then we've got Kirk saying there's 700 miles between my QTH, so my home location, and his. So, and he was hearing me. So just to get an idea of where we were getting out to. Keith in Saskatchewan, I may have mentioned this already, saying that he could hear me in Saskatchewan, but his signal wasn't getting to me. So just an idea where we were getting out to there.
Thank you.
so-
That's pretty impressive. How about those of us who may have found our way into some Baofeng UV5Rs? I hear those can go into the 8-watt range, which technically puts them into the ham space,
Don't
does it
believe
not?
it. The wattage doesn't put them into the ham space.
Ah.
But yeah, a lot of them are advertised. They just slap a sticker on it with a power rating. They'll sell them for 8 watts. They'll sell them for 10. I had the 8-watt ones for a while, and even on high power, they're putting out maybe 5 watts.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's something that people get hung up on all the time. That power is better. More power is better. Yes and no. Like with the HF stuff, we can sit in a park and actually, even when we were out on our annual fishing trip, I had the same setup, like my portable setup out there, and I was pushing about 24 to 30 watts, and we were hitting Spain. No problem.
Wow.
So it's
Damn.
it's all about, and clear as day. Like we were getting 5.9 signal reports back and forth, no issue. So it's all about your setup, the time of day, propagation. The difference between 20, 30 watts and 100 watts is not going to be a lot as far as the strength of your signal getting out. It's all about the propagation. So everybody always gets hung up on power. It's more antenna.
Okay.
Good to know.
So get some proper setup, and 20 watts can get you far. 5 watts can get you far.
So
It's,
have
And
you
then,
noticed that?
I was just going to say, and I mean, we sort of haven't really touched on it, but I mean, you've got to match your antenna to your radio. It's called the SWR. And the closer you can match your radio to your antenna gets you a much better signal, receiving and sending out.
100%. Yeah, SWR is a fun beast, and it will drive you nuts. But it's all about tuning your antenna. That's another ham radio argument that you'll get into with a bunch of people, as far as tune your radio, tune your antenna, don't tune your antenna. You know what? Do what feels right to you. It is what it is. I see Blizzard FPV in the chat asking 24 watts. How much money? Selfless or shameless self promotion here. there is a link to a 20-watt radio that I happen to sell. So just throwing it out there.
So do you find that in maybe the winter months, there tends to be a little bit more volume on the ham compared to the nicer things where people may be more inside and like, okay, my stuff works, and then when the nice weather comes around, you know, and they're doing stuff with the family, going up to the cottage, and doing this, that. So do you find that influx in, you know, potential time of year, or, you know, in a blizzard, that there may be a few extra people online in comparison to normal?
Time of year, you'll see, and Kirk, I saw your message there about the 7247. We'll try it in a second here. Time of year, you'll see Parks on the Air activations is really popular the last couple of years. You'll see them get higher during this nicer summer weather because people are out traveling, right? And they're not in their house. So you'll see a lot more portable operators that way. But really, it all throughout the year, there's contests and there's people constantly on, more so in the evenings and during the day. But there's always people on chatting. It's some days are busier than others, but I haven't seen a consistent drop per se. It's just usually the days that I have free time and I can get onto the radio, which are very rare these days. Nobody else is on. But let's try and see if we can get Kirk here. I think I've got everything flipped around, so I should be able to transmit again. And if you guys can just confirm for me in a second that you can hear the radio. That's not good.
Lots of feedback.
Yeah, that got a little feedbacky, didn't it? Huh.
Yep.
I don't know why that is. Yeah. So technical troubles all of a sudden. The joys of doing this live. It was working beautifully, and then things switched around. What if I do this one? Okay, let's try this again, and let's see if we can. Apologies if it does feedback again, and let me know if you can hear the radio. Anything? Oh, two me's.
Two U's. Twos of U's.
Hear you.
You two of you, yeah.
Oh, this is a lot of fun. Like I said, it's either going to go really well or it's going to fall apart. So far, I think it's gone well. So at least we hit. Let's see if I do this one. I think this is the one I did last time, and we got feedback. Okay, I'll try it again, and I'll kill the feedback real quick if we get feedback. Oh, two me's.
Two's U's.
Two's me's. Yeah, no, tons of feedback.
Yep.
Oh, wowzers. I don't know why that is. That is strange. Well, that might kill us for doing any more tests today. Unless we do this, and let's see if you guys can hear the radio. If I do it this way. Nope. Well, I'm not going to troubleshoot it live anymore. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. But it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions?
It did work, and people got to hear what it's going to sound like and how things kind of work. And I would call it a success for sure.
100%.
Yeah. At least it worked for a little bit there, and I don't know what changed. The joys of technology, something flipped in when one of my settings here. I'm running multiple programs. For those that can't see my screen, I'm piping the audio through to you guys through one program, and then I got to pipe the audio through my mic through the rig for another program. So one of them is not too happy for whatever reason. I don't know, but I will definitely, looking at the live viewers for this show, I will definitely do another one like this. It seems to be pretty popular. We started up around 20 to 22, which is pretty close to a record for us. So I'm guessing it's a popular topic. So we should
Well, I do
definitely
have
try.
a question for you, Eric.
Oh, yeah. I was
Seeing
just
as this
gonna
is so popular, and same thing for Scott or Jeff, whoever is on this call that's been taking the courses or written the exams. What's the math load for those of us who haven't done serious math in 20 some years?
1 + 1 is like 17 in my world. So if I can do it, you'll be fine. I don't remember there being too much math. at
Yeah,
all.
it's not bad at all. I mean, it's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
just
it's-
understanding the big concepts of how radio waves travel around the world and being polite so you're not causing interference on other people's frequencies.
Good, because I
This is why
started
you
getting a
heard me ask
little.
you at
I started getting a little intimidated just opening the book and going through like chapters 1 and 2. That was, oh my god! I started getting flabbergasted and flustered there, and to have that question answered, I'm feeling a lot better now.
and to make life maybe a little bit easier for people, I'm working through my my Morse code certification. Once I'm able, or proficiency, once I'm able to get that added onto my license, then I can actually do proctoring for exams. So I'll put that out to people once it's a possibility. Maybe it just makes your life a little bit easier to have a familiar face on the other end when you're writing the exam versus someone you don't know.
Yeah.
But I'll open that up to people as well once I get to that stage. I'm not there yet. I still got to pass that proficiency for the Morse code, which is only 5 words a minute. It's not bad, but takes time.
What do we do to help?
Yeah, we start talking in Morse code, Brad.
I'll get you in touch with someone that used to do 45 words a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, good, perfect. We just got to take 40 words a minute down to 5, and we'll be good to go. Any other questions from the panel or the live chat?
No, I'll just say it was kind of
Definitely
cool,
worth
and
it.
thank you. Yeah, it was just nice to see, because like, yeah, the ham thing was always curious to me, but I have the attention span of a squirrel sometimes. But to actually like see and like
More like a
understand a little
chipmunk.
bit, and like visually see, like, okay, change the frequencies and this, that, and then get a little bit has got me a little more intrigued. So it's much appreciated.
Awesome. That was kind of my hopes for this episode, is just kind of demystify what it sounds like and what it's all about there. What I can do as well, if people are interested in the Discord, we tested this out about a year or so ago. We can hop into the Discord and do this as well. It's actually a lot easier to set up in Discord than it is through this setup. It's literally two mouse clicks, and I have everything done, and I don't have to worry about having 4 or 5 different programs piping stuff around. So if people are interested, send me an email. I can even do one-on-one meetings with people in the Discord. We can get a group together if we want. If you want to try and just do some contacts, if you're new to ham radio and you've got a rig and you're just nervous about getting out on the air and you want to practice a bit, shoot me a message in the Discord, flip me an email, feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. We're also trying to organize a preppers net, being NVIS. So if you check out, was it episode 195, we did NVIS. We're trying to do that for local comms and get something going where once a week or once every other week, whichever we kind of designate, we'll have a net controller, and we'll just do some check-ins with everybody to see everybody, what's going on. You want to talk about anything preparedness related, that kind of thing, and get people on the air chatting. So we're going to start rolling that out shortly. There's a group of us in Ontario that are all kind of in the prepper world or prepper landscape, and we're talking about getting that set up. So stay tuned for that with all the free time I have, that is. So we'll get it to work eventually. But
And
that's
VIS is going to be more fun in the summer anyway.
It will be, yeah, because you can sit on the back deck with a beer. It'll be great.
Or a whiskey or a rum.
Or whiskey or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that, Kurt.
But they will antenna. Actually, yes, we're going to do an episode where we take random preparedness items and see if they will antenna. I think
like
that'll
this
be
one?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see if that will antenna.
Which
Or
is
that. Yep.
custom made.
That has a pretty slick looking logo on it.
Yeah,
I
hey,
like
and
it.
we figured it out how to get it a little better centered. We figured it out tonight. Unfortunately, not on that one, but we're figuring it out, buddy.
Fantastic. I like it.
Looking good.
Oh.
All right. Any other questions in the live chat for this ham radio nerd stuff? No.
Ballpark.
Analysts?
If you want to get into it and get not top of the line, something efficient, whatever. What would be your give or take startup costs on
Sure.
getting yourself a rig and antenna and something to at least start transmitting?
Fantastic
upgrade
question.
from there.
Yep. So my setup here, and again, this is my first HF radio. Like it's technically the 5105 was the first one I bought because it just looked fancy and transportable. I learned later on it's not going to actually do what I want until I got into Parks in the Air. But anyways, this is my first actual radio that I used for a while. The Kenwood TS590. Bought it secondhand, like I mentioned. Got it off of OnTars, which is an Ontario ham radio site. They do all kinds of stuff. They've got a buy, sell, swap page. Shortwave listener was selling it. It cost me $800 cash, and that was shipped to the door. So he shipped it to me, $800. It's been a fantastic radio. The antenna that I have out in the back was about 200 and change. I've gone through a couple of antenna setups since getting set up. First one I put up was an NFED, and it was about 150. I put up a G5RV. It was what, $65. I bought it used. You can get a lot of stuff used, and I think I mentioned this in a couple of the ham radio episodes that we've done. A lot of the stuff that you purchase used is going to be well maintained, well looked after, because ham operators tend to take pride in their equipment. This, for example, my Kenwood. When I say this, and I'm pointing down, my radios right here. The Kenwood came with the original box, original receipt, the original power cable, original microphone. All that kind of stuff. And the guy had
manual, the whole
everything.
shebang.
The operator manual, everything. It was as if I just got it from the store, and that was from the gentleman that had bought it from the store like 10, 15 years ago. So, and you see a lot of that on the buy, sell, swap sites. They will say manual, box, everything is yours. So
Nice.
there is some great pride kept in these devices that operators have. So, not to say there aren't a few out there that will try to scam you. So obviously, still pay attention to the ad, pay attention to the person, and do your typical checks that you're going to do before you buy something online. But most of my stuff's all been secondhand. So I'd budget around $1,000-$1,500 to get started in HF. And
Okay, that's not that bad.
It's not
I have
terrible.
a follow-up
It's not
question.
cheap, but go for it.
So certain machines, like in the computer world, we know that, if I buy a 10-year-old server, it's probably going to be a little old and moldy and not going to be able to handle certain kinds of modern workloads, right? So is it the same with older radios?
Yeah, great question. So some of the older radios, if you buy them, they won't do digital modes natively. So if you're going to want to get into digital, you're going to want to send like WinLink, so email over HF, or you want to get into FT8 like we talked about, or Vera AC, or any of those kind of things that we heard at the beginning. They might not do those natively. You can buy add-on cards and such that will let you do it. But if that's something you want to get into, look for a radio that has a built-in sound card already that will allow you to do it. So like this TS590, just sheer luck. I had no idea what I wanted to get into when I picked this thing up. I just saw it. It was in my price range. It was, looked like a decent setup. I grabbed it. Sheer luck. It's got a built-in sound card, so I can do all the digital modes. But that was one thing where I went, okay, thank goodness that it has it, because if not, I'd be out more money getting an interface to allow me to do digital. I don't do a lot of digital, but I do play around a little bit with WinLink and FT8 and such, and sometimes. So do research, just figure out exactly what you want to do. If you want to do digital, get the sound card, but older equipment still works. And I've actually talked to a lot of hams that will mention having an older radio makes it repairable yourself. Right?
Music to my ears.
Some of the newer stuff where they're getting fancy and they've got like software defined radios and all that kind of stuff. You're not fixing it yourself just because schematics aren't available. Parts are hard to fix. The older stuff, like my Kenwood here, like I said, I popped it open and I added those 2 extra modules to it myself. Soldered a couple chips on the board. Done. Didn't have to send it to anybody. If that's in your skill set, perfect. But I did it all here just with a solder iron myself. So there's that as well. And you can get into some really old stuff that runs off of tubes. Tubes are hard to find, but if you've got them and you stockpile them, prepper anybody, then you can replace stuff there. So older it is, easier it is to fix, but might not work with some of the more modern stuff. But will work single sideband. So talking, you can still do that with any of the radios that can get on the ham frequency, as long as they're transmitting appropriately on that frequency. Game on. They'll still work.
Beautiful. Thank you. A quick follow-up one, and it'll be my last one. I got so many questions, but this is a good one. I'm starting to see I'm going to have to brush off the old soldering skill sets and get much better at it than when I was in high school electronics. Are there other peripheral skill sets that an aspiring ham radio operator could work on other than soldering and understanding basic antenna theory?
Basic electrical theory is on the exam, so you'll want to know just your basic electrical, and that's really just boils down to a safety thing, right? They want to make sure that you're not hooking things up wrong and frying your equipment or killing yourself, because sometimes you're dealing with some pretty serious power. So yeah, basic electrical theory is definitely something you're going to want to be familiar with, and really beyond that is mic fright is something you might want to work on, because a lot of hams will get a radio and then go, I don't want to say anything.
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. I'll transmit tomorrow. Right. So that's another thing to work through, is just getting over that fear of talking into a microphone out into the void. And it takes time. That's why I always offer anybody, like when I'm doing like these shows here, or anybody I'm talking to, I always offer, if you want to hop on a video chat or on the phone or whatever, and just do a couple of contacts between the two of us, a friendly face, somebody that you at least feel like you know already from watching 200 podcasts or whatever, let's just hop on and do a quick contact that way, right? Kind of get the mic fright out, and then get you transmitting. But those are two other things that I would say you should.
200 next week.
It also really helps when you have a FaceTime or video chat going, conversation, phone, doesn't matter, where you have some alternate communication, so you can troubleshoot both ends of the conversation and try and make the contact you're intending.
Oh, that's a great point. I'm a huge fan of working with your people networks and relying on them, and there's just another example of it there. So thanks for that, Scott. That's brilliant.
And Unger in the live chat's just asking if I want to know what my radio is new, because he's pulled it up on Radio World. This radio is actually discontinued. So the one you're looking at on Radio World is the 590S. No, TS, sorry. But I'm still curious. I think it's in around like the 1500 mark, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that's why I buy used, and there's nothing wrong with buying used equipment. Like I said, most of it is well maintained and looked after. So, and the frequencies haven't changed over the decades. So they're still the same frequencies. So
mine was also used and came in the original box with the original manual, everything except the power cable, because the guys had that in his as his set.
So Unger's looked it up on Radio World, which is a retailer in Toronto, and $1,900 for the newer model of the TS590. So they are not cheap if you're getting into the new market. So it's, like I said, keep an eye out for the deals on various sites. It's well worth getting into the used market.
I hear great things about a 20-watt unit you can get at what's that place? Rapid Survival.
There is that place, yes.
$625 for that one.
Yeah. So for those that are wondering, that's the Zygu G90 is one that I carry. I do happen to have two of them in stock, but that's a little 20-watt radio that is portable and runs off of a battery. So there's no internal battery, but it is a fantastic little portable radio. Yes, it's a Chinese radio. Some people will curse and swear about that, but I've run the Zygu stuff, and it's it's a little flaky here and there for some of the software. The G90, I've heard, I haven't used it personally myself, but I've heard that software is pretty rock solid. But I've been happy with my Zygu stuff, so I wouldn't ever suggest anybody new in ham radio start out with a 20-watt radio. It just gets frustrating if you're trying to make contacts on lower power. start out with something that's at least 100 watts. Starting out with the 20, you might actually, like right now, we're getting into a really good solar cycle. So you may, yes, make a lot of contacts with it. You might not. So start out with the 100 watts. And then later on, if you want to get into the more portable stuff, then drop down to what we would call QRP or low power radio. But yeah, I wouldn't start out with it.
Oh, that looks like at least it's got a metal frame. I might be able to do some cool stuff with that.
That is true.
Yeah. Or casing, I should say. Maybe not frame, but metal casing. Nice. That's definitely
Yeah. Any other questions, comments,
No.
concerns about ham radio?
no more questions because it's already starting to cost me too much. But quick comments. Yeah, thank you very much for the quick
Absolutely.
troubleshooting last night, which helped for tonight and everything. And yeah, just the curiosity of how all of it works and realizing I felt like I was during the Cold War, or like I was a secret spy trying to intercept the message to win the battle or something. So it was cool. It's much appreciated for the help, guys. Thank you.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for helping me out last night and getting this sorted out, because without you guys, I wouldn't have known if it was going to work. And then we would have showed up tonight just going cross our fingers. To throw out there the whole hearing different transmissions, just to go down the rabbit hole because we're here. There are pirate radio stations that you can listen to as well. And if that's a thing you want to do, they hang out usually just below 40 meters where we were playing today. And they'll do all kinds of fun stuff. They'll play music. There'll be DJs that come on the odd time and identify themselves with fun names, whatever. And they'll also send slow scan TV, so SSTV, which you can decode. It's a digital thing, so you can decode it on your computer or on your phone, and it's literally a picture. So there's one, was it Outhouse Radio, and they send fun SSTV images. I'll leave it there. But it's kind of cool stuff like that, right? So if you're into that sort of thing, or you're bored one night and you want to scan around just under 40 meters, you can pick up some cool pirate radio stations. There's number stations out there. If you want to get into the number stations, just throw number stations into YouTube. There's all kinds of videos on number stations already. There's a bunch of religious stations that are out there transmitting a bunch as well. There's all kinds of fun stuff you can get into outside of the ham bands, which gets in the shortwave listening, that you can do with your HF rig. So it's just another thing that go and play around with. If the bands aren't working all that great, you want to go maybe see if you can hear them. There's time stations as well that transmit like the atomic clock and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to go listen to a monotone tone chime and then tell you what time it is, you can do
there's
that.
one in Ottawa.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's all that kind of stuff too, but we're going down a whole other rabbit hole that we could probably cover off in another episode.
Or two
or 5 or 10. Yeah. If you Google HF Underground, it'll show. That's a pretty popular site that lists all the current pirate radio stations. People will actually log in there and post what they can hear, their frequency, all the settings that you have to put in your radio to hear them, and what time they were hearing the station at, and then you can put it into your radio and listen to it as well. So there's always that option. So there's all kinds of fun stuff you can see. I can see wheels turning in Frugal Gunny's head.
There's always a few mice rolling around in here.
Good. Now they've got radios, so even better. Awesome. Well, if there's any other questions, I'll open it up once more from either live chat or panelists.
No, I got lots to process now.
Great. Awesome. Well, like I said, I'll open it up. Anybody who wants to hop on the Discord, send me a message. We can do a little group chat thing in there and do some contacts and do more radio like this very easily one evening. Just let me know and we can make our schedules line up accordingly. Yeah, with that, maybe we'll move in to the podcast challenge. And I know this one's going to be shocking for everybody, but study for your ham license. And that way we can get more people and more contacts. Upcoming events, annual Peppers Meets coming up in Desborough, Ontario. So same location as last year. It's running July the 6th to the 9th, 2023. Early bird tickets are going on sale April 2nd. So check that out. Just throw annual pepper meat into Google. Comes up on the top of the list. So have a look at that. Should be a good one this year. And Jeff, you got a weather blurb.
I certainly do. So the cold air from the polar vortex breakdown is still hanging around. It'll continue to cool at much of the lower central U.S. for the next couple of days. Like I'm talking Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, they're getting close to or around the freezing mark. Believe it or not, there's a chance for snow in some of the higher elevations in northern Mexico. Not New Mexico, Mexico. Having said that, on Wednesday, Thursday, things will change. There'll be a big rush of very warm air that will start to appear and try to push into the deep south. That's going to clash with the cold air, and there is a good chance that that could produce some severe storms, specifically in the northern Texas, Oklahoma area. And then by next weekend, we're back to the cold air again. It's just kind of a repeating cycle a little bit. Going to go on maybe for the next couple of weeks. California can't catch a break. They're in line for another atmospheric river tonight and tomorrow. A lot of the areas in the Sierra Nevadas and that their snow totals have exceeded 200% of their yearly average. So, you know, you talked about the shortage, that water shortage there. I'll have to look into that one. I hadn't heard that, but I mean, that's over in Arizona. I'll go and kind of have a look at that. So maybe next week I'll have something to say on that. Sorry, Brad, but next Saturday there is the potential for another Great Lakes storm. More details and timing are coming as we get closer and the models start to come into an agreement. They're all saying something's coming. They just don't know whether it's going to be all rain and ice and snow, all of that. But I'll keep you posted. I'll pop it into the Discord as I get a bit more information and things kind of, as I say, the models start to come into agreement. So,
do you mean the Saturday coming up or the Saturday like 13 days from now?
No, Saturday coming.
The Saturday, 7 days from now, or 6 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
so yes, when Brad wants to work on as well.
I'm not worried about that. I'm on my honeymoon that day.
Oh well.
So
yeah,
we'll see.
Stay warm.
Priorities.
Yeah.
I've got many things planned.
All right. So anybody have any shout outs? No shout outs. Email was dry this week.
No, shout out to you and Scott, Eric. You guys did a lot of work on this, trying to set this all up and whatnot, and I think it was a good success. So thank you for doing it for sure, guys.
I'm happy to. To demystify things if we can.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so you still haven't answered my question though. What's the mustard?
Classic French's. You can get it anywhere. Stores well. Stock up now.
Dijon is great if you want to go down that road.
I'm just going to go with any kind of smoky mustard because electronics run on smoke. And if you let the smoke out, it's done.
I once had a German mustard with bacon in it, and it was heavenly. So mustard with bacon in it. There you have it.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Nice.
I like it.
So before we kind of plug out and do the outro and that, do we want to have a quick throw out to the people out there what we're going to do for next week?
Yeah, we can. Sure. Yeah. Episode number 200 is coming up on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is do similar to episode 100. We're going to open up the panel here. The panel is always open for people to come join, but we figured we'd open it up, let people come and go as they please. Obviously, if you start going offside, you're going to get kicked, but you know what? It is what it is. But we'll open it up to people. Come on in. let's have a roundtable chat about just preparedness. Maybe mention your favorite episode or favorite moments from various episodes up to number 200. And we're just going to open it up and do a roundtable chat with everybody. I know that probably one of the favorite ones is going to be Alan's Rage Quit. We'll just put that out there.
For sure.
It's my fucking favorite.
But we have 200 episodes to pull from. So we're just going to open it up to a good roundtable chat with panelists, viewers. If you don't want to come on the panel, you don't have to. You can do it in the live chat, obviously. Or if you don't want to use your webcam when you're on, you can just come on audio like Scott does. It's no problem at all. So we'll leave that kind of open. And I'm going to push that out to the Discord as well, because I see we've dropped down quite a bit from viewers here. And I don't expect everybody to listen for 2 hours and 20 minutes. So
also, maybe we'll put this out there that there might be a specific new prize for someone that wants to participate, send some feedback in, something special or whatever. So everybody that comes on and may have send an email or something, maybe we can do a little bit of a draw for some stuff.
Well, there
you
go.
Don't know what it is yet. I mean, you guys know what it is, but nobody else does.
Yeah.
Cool. We're doing a draw. There you go. That'll get people in. Awesome.
There you go. Yeah, free shit always gets some people in.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. We haven't done a giveaway in quite a while, so it's good. I think the last one was the first aid book there. So cool.
Yeah. Dr.
Nice
Bones.
giveaway.
Dr. Bones. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Cool.
a while back.
All right. Well, with that, then I'll bring episode number 199 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, apparently HF tonight, or your favorite podcast app. So please help us out. Submit a review. It does help other people find us.
And we do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That will give you an alert when we are going live. You can reach me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca, or I am frequently on the Discord.
You can get Scott also at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca, or potentially on whatever HF bands happen to be open that night.
Anybody wants to reach out, batbradcpp@gmail.com.
If you want to get in touch with me for pretty much anything, Off the Wall Customizing, we're on all the socialist medias. If you want me on the Discord, send me a private message. I lost track of it. There's so many notifications, I just gave up on it. Or you can find me on Monday nights on the YouTubes, doing on the other CPP, the Patriot Podcast, where I talk about my critique of the government, and there's way more reasons we hit the explicit button.
You do realize it's dangerous to tell the internet if you want to contact me for pretty much anything. Just saying, that's dangerous.
$20, buddy. Have you seen the fucking price of eggs?
He's not wrong.
I can't grow fucking chicken. I can't have chickens. I gotta find eggs somewhere, buddy.
Jeez. YouTube, it was fun. We'll see you on tour next week. Oh, geez. Frugal Gunny, where can everybody find you?
So I'm on the Face Crack. If anybody wants to find me, you'll find me on the Facebook. You'll find me on the YouTube. And geez, I'm even on the Instagram now. So yeah, I think the only place I'm not on is Twitter. And oh geez, hell might freeze over before that happens. So we'll see.
Likewise.
Fantastic. All right. Check out Rapid Survival, rapidsurvival.com. There might be some HF radios there. You can also get me on the live chat and feedback at prepperpodcast.ca. So thanks for joining us. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
And keep learning.